Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. In today's video we're going to be doing something that I haven't done on the channel for quite some time now, and that is weathering. Weathering is something I quite enjoy, and I haven't done a video on weathering rolling stock in quite some time, so I figured in today's video I'll do some weathering. Now, as I mentioned in the layout update, these wagons will be receiving a video, and that is this video. So the plan in this video is we're going to weather them and also add a load. So that will all be in this video. So I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm not going to go too crazy when it comes to the weathering. I want to try make this video easy for people to follow, and hopefully with the techniques that I show, it can be easy for anyone to do, and easy for beginners, I guess you could also say. So this video we're going to weather these wagons as well as add a load. So before we get into the video, if you haven't already, please subscribe and click on the little notifications bell and press all. That way you stay notified for the future videos. Alright, so prior to doing any sort of weathering project, it's always a good idea to consult actual photographs of the real thing. So as you can see, I've got one up here, and it just so happens that this one, VOJF 24U, I actually have the model of it right here. So that was a bit of a coincidence there. But anyways, it's a good idea to get actual photographs of the real model, whether it be a locomotive or a piece of rolling stock in this case. But as you can see in the photos, we have quite a bit going on in terms of the weathering. So we have some black around where all the panel lines are, so we can highlight that with a wash. We have some dirt streaking down the sides, so we can highlight that with some weathering powders. Now the underframes are not too dirty, but what we can do is we can just give a couple of passes with the airbrush just to highlight those. So overall the weathering is not going to be crazy, but I just want it to be somewhat subtle. So I find it's a good idea to always weather your models according to prototype photos. That way you can refer back to the photo to make sure what it is that you're weathering is being weathered to somewhat a realistic effect. If you don't weather according to prototype photos, you're essentially weathering blind. So I find it's always a good practice to get a photograph of the real thing and weather it according to that. And also, if it's a locomotive, try get photos of the locomotive you're weathering in the time period that you model. So if you can find a photo of the real loco that you're weathering during the time period you model, you can see how it weathered during the time period you model, and you can weather it accordingly. So we've done our research, so I'm going to use this as my prototype photo as reference. So let's get into the weathering. Okay, so to start off the weathering, it's always good practice to clean the model. So as you can see, I've got some rubber gloves on. To do this, I just use a bit of isopropyl alcohol. Whilst these models are relatively new, I still am going to clean them, as they've seen some running on my layout as well as the club layout. So I've handled them a fair bit since buying them. I've only had them for about 2 months now, so I'll still give them a clean. It's good practice to clean them prior to doing any sort of weathering. That way you have a nice clean base to work with, and you're not trapping any dirt in there when you weather your models, because obviously once you apply that clear coat, if you don't clean them and there's dirt on them, you're going to trap that dirt in as well. So it's always good practice to clean them, whether it be a new model like this, or perhaps a model you've had on your layout for say 5 years. Yeah, it's always just good practice to clean them. If you don't have isopropyl alcohol, then you can use warm soapy water. That also works just fine, but I've got isopropyl alcohol, so I will be using that. So I'm going to clean these off camera, and then we'll get on to the weathering. Okay, so we're going to start the weathering process now, and first of all we're going to add a black wash. Now in the photo, we saw the black wash was around where all the panel joins are, so we're going to highlight those areas with a black wash. This one I'm using is the Tamiya panel line accent colour. This is the black one, and what's really convenient about this is it has a brush built into the lid, so we'll make use of that. And what we'll do is we'll go around all the panel areas, so around here and all there and anywhere where dirt would normally accumulate and be difficult to remove. So using this black wash, that's what we're going to do. So with the wash applied to all 4 wagons now, I'm going to let that dry. Now as you can see, it's not particularly neat, but that's because you're seeing it now and not when it's done. So what we're going to do next is we're going to let this wash dry, and then I'm going to come back with a cotton bud and some enamel thinners, and we're actually going to remove a fair bit of that wash, only leaving it in the areas that I want the wash to be. So what we'll do is we're basically going to tone down the wash that I have applied and remove the bits that I'm not particularly happy with. So I'll let that dry and then we'll go and do that. See, we have removed the bits that I'm not particularly happy with, but at the same time we've left the wash in between the areas where the panels would join, and also areas where the hinges are. So I'm going to keep going at that on this wagon as well as the rest of them, and then we'll come back and do some further painting effects. Right, so with the wash work now done, very happy with how that's turned out. The next thing to do is do some subtle airbrushing effects, mainly to the underframe. So the colour I'm going to be using is the Vallejo Air Earth Brown. I quite like using the Vallejo Air paints for airbrushing, as they're already pre-thinned in the bottle. You just squeeze the amount into your airbrush cup and away you go, sort of thing. So they're nice and easy that way. So I'm going to be mainly focusing spraying along the bogies and also on the underframe here, not so much on the actual body side of the wagon. It's only going to be a very small amount, as there's not much frame dirt in the actual photo of the real thing. So but a couple of light passes along the bogies and underframe I think would look quite good. Right, so the airbrush is all set up, ready to go, and I've got the paint in the airbrush here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it like that and just very carefully just do a couple of passes along the underframe just to dirty that up ever so slightly. Alright, so it's time to do the final painting effects, which is to do the inside of the wagon. Now, I'm not going to do the entire inside. I'm mainly going to be focusing on this sort of top half of the sides of the wagon here. I'm not going to bother doing the floor, as you won't see that, because as I mentioned at the start of the video, there is going to be a load added to these wagons. So I'm only going to do the top sort of half, as that's what you're going to see. So I've got some Tamiya X1 or XF1 black that I've just, this is a flat black, this one. I've just thinned this down, and I'm just going to apply it to the sort of the top half of the wagon, as that's the area you're going to see. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the weathering stage on these models, so the last thing to do is just give them a nice dusting of weathering powders. The weathering powders I'm using are the Vallejo pigments. This particular one is the black, so carbon black is what it's called. So I'm going to use my my Humbrol number 10 brush. It's got a nice soft end here. I'm going to just give this model and the rest of them a nice dusting of weathering powders, and then what we'll do is we'll seal it all up with some clear coat. Okay, so I've finished all the weathering powder work, so it's time to seal it all in. Now the clear coat that I'll be using is the Mr. Hobby Mr. Super Clear matte. This is the UV cut version, so it's supposed to be so I guess UV resistant. Not that I put my models in direct sunlight or anything, but you know, it is UV resistant, so that's what I'll be using. So I reckon 2 good coats of this on each one, and should be good enough to handle without rubbing off any of the weathering. Okay, so I've just finished applying the second layer of clear coat, and very happy with how they're looking. Now all that needs to be done in terms of weathering is painting the wheels and the couplings, but that's something I'm going to do off camera. It's pretty self-explanatory, just paint them with a brush really, so I don't really think I need to show that. But what we'll do is let this dry, I'll paint the wheels and couplings, and then we can move on to adding the load to these wagons. Okay, so it's the following morning now, and the clear coat is well and truly dried. Now off camera I've finished up all the weathering, so I painted the wheels and the couplings. That was the last thing I did. I just used this one here, made by Vallejo Model Air, same colour that I used for the underframe on each wagon. So all the weathering's done now, and I'm very happy with it. So now the next thing to do is the load. Now there's many different ways to make a load, and you know, there's no right or wrong way to do it. As I said, there's many different ways of doing it. It's the same thing with weathering. There's many different ways you can weather a wagon. There's no right or wrong way. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to make the loads in these wagons, and yeah, so let's see how it goes. Okay, so to make the load, we're going to need the following items. So we're going to need some cardboard. We need our load. I'm using Woodland Scenic's ballast. This is the coarse cinders, which would be perfect for a, I'm trying to model a, I think it's pronounced briquettes, or brickheads, I don't know, load. It's sort of similar to coal. So yeah, that's what I'll be using for that. We'll need some water, we'll need some Glad wrap or cling film, whatever you want to call it, and we'll need some PVA, some neat PVA and some PVA glue water mix. So that's all we're going to need for this load, so let's get started. Okay, so I've finished cutting out all the cardboard. Now I was going to use this white stuff, this 1mm stuff, but I found that I had some of this corrugated stuff, so I figured I may as well use that instead. It just saves me having to spend a heap of time cutting out these thinner ones. So got these in the wagon now, so I'm going to glue them all together, and then what I'll do is I'm going to put some of the cling film inside the wagon, and I'll show you why we're going to do that. So let's glue them all together. Okay, so as you can see, I've put all the cardboard in now. The cling film here is designed so that way our load doesn't stick to the actual plastic of the wagon. I want to make these loads removable, so that's why I'm putting the cling film in here. So I've just PVA'd all the cardboard pieces together, and I'll probably leave those for about half an hour to dry. And as you can see, I put some SMS paint bottles on top, just so they dry nice and flat. And then once half an hour is up, I'll remove the bottles of paint, put a bit of glue on the cardboard, and we can spread our ballast load on top, or our cinders load, I guess you could say. So that will be the next thing. Okay, so the last thing to do is actually add the load itself. So I've given these a bit of time to dry, a bit over half an hour, should be plenty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my neat PVA glue and just get a nice sort of thick layer of that over the top here. And what I'll do is I'll just get a bit of cardboard and just use that as a spreader, I guess. Just spread it out a bit. I think in all honesty that's a bit too much, but never mind. Just want to cover the surface here. In fact, I'll get another one actually and use some of that glue that's from that one and put it in the other one. So yeah, I think I've got a bit too much in here. I was all going to get PVA glue water mix added to it anyway, so yeah, it's definitely a bit too much in that one. I think that should be alright. And what we'll do, grab our load here. I'm going to try to make it, I'm going to cover the area first. And then I'm going to try to create like a mound in the middle. So something like that. And I reckon that will look absolutely perfect. And all I need to do is lock it all down with a PVA glue and water mix. So I'll do the rest of them, and yeah, they should look pretty good. Okay, so I've just applied the PVA glue and water mix to them off camera. So I'm going to leave these to dry. Definitely won't be overnight. I'll probably have to leave them for several days, and then when we come back, hopefully they'll be dry enough. We can remove the loads, we can take the cling film out, and then yeah, we'll be able to have removable loads. So you can see why I put the cling film on, because as you can see it's got water and glue mix all over it, but that water and glue mix has not gotten onto the nice weathering that I've just done on these wagons. So very happy with how that's come out. So I'll probably leave these for quite a number of days to dry, so we'll come back when they're all dry. Okay, so there they are, all complete. The loads came out pretty good. They're a little bit on the glossy side, so I think I will have to give them just a quick blasting of matte varnish, or maybe I could just run a bit of acrylic paint over them. But other than that, they've come out really nice. Very happy with the loads. They look very good, and I think they finish off the wagons quite nicely, and they complement the weathering that I did to them quite well. So overall, I'm very happy with these wagons and how they came out. Okay, so something I want to point out just before I finish up this video, the weathering techniques that I used in this video, these are all basic techniques that pretty much anyone can do, even if you're a beginner in the hobby. These are techniques that you can still do. And also some of the products that I used, such as the airbrush and the Tamiya panel line wash, you don't necessarily have to buy. Like for example, I used the airbrush to spray the underframe brown. You can very well easily do that with weathering powders. You don't have to go out and buy an airbrush to do that kind of job. And another thing is with the Tamiya panel line wash that I applied, you don't necessarily have to go out and buy that. You can very much just get some black acrylic paint and just thin that down with some water and just use that instead. And then obviously I used enamel thinners to clean the wash up. You don't have to use enamel thinners. You can also use isopropyl alcohol. That also works just fine. So you know, you don't have to go out and buy all these items. You very well can weather these wagons, and any wagon for that matter, even locomotives, just using cheap basic weathering materials, and you can still get very good results. So I think the one takeaway from this video, if you're new to weathering, is you don't have to go out and buy all the expensive products. You very well can just use just some acrylic paints, and I also use powders obviously. So there are many different ways to weather wagons. There is no right or wrong. Just use your imagination, use prototype photos, and most importantly, have fun. That would be my top tips with weathering, and yeah, hopefully this video has inspired you to have a go at weathering your own wagons. Okay, so that will be the end of today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, let me know your feedback in the comments section below. I'll leave a link to all the products I use in the description, so please check that out if you're interested. And there will be more weathering videos coming out, so stay tuned for those. Anyways, that will be it from me, and of course I'll see you all in my next video. Take care, stay safe, and of course, have a nice day. Bye everyone.